Welcome to this March 9th, 2020 City Council meeting. And in our new format, we begin this 7:30 meeting with committee reports and items of interest. I don't know, do I have councilors who have something they wish to share? Okay, Councilor Ye.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to take this opportunity, it's getting close to spring break, and I wanted to remind everyone about some of the awesome programs that our staff is working on at the library. If you haven't heard, please take advantage of some of these. Out in Bethel, they have a try virtual reality thing, and the Sheldon branches, they're doing model trains. They've got magic puppet shows at Peterson Barn and the Sheldon Community Center. They're doing something called Springo, which is apparently a spring-themed bingo at the downtown library. There's stuff for teens during spring break. They've got teen Nintendo Switch pizza parties at both Bethel and the Sheldon branch. They're making no-bake cookies downtown. And then one of my favorites for teens, they're doing a Miyazaki double feature. They're going to be showing Spirited Away and one of my favorites, Nausicaa. So if you've got teens at home and they want to check that out, yes, it is amazing. They also have lasers in the library. And if you did not do this last time, there is laser tag, arcades, music, food trucks, light art, and experimental musical instruments. You can even get a free LTD pass if you go on the city's website and download it and print it. And you can come to Lasers in the library car-free for free. We want everyone to check that out. So if you are looking for stuff to do over spring break, please do that. And the library wanted me to remind people that they have a special sensory story time every Saturday. And it's for kids who have sensory and special needs. And it's a really awesome program. If you have someone in your life that would benefit from that, check it out and go participate.
Great. Thank you for that. Councilor Semple.
Thank you. I went to that laser thing last time. It's really cool, but I have to tell you they did not have a black light, and I was all dressed up in my black and white. It's very disappointing. I wanted to talk about the mayor's campaign for kindness. I'd like us to amp it up a little bit. Even though it's spring, with everything that's going on, people are really on edge, we're cranky, we're tired, and we're angry. And I really think the only solution at this point, since we can't solve the problems that are making us angry on our own right now, is let's be nice to each other. Let's understand that we're all frustrated and not like come up to people's faces and yell at them, which has happened to me. So, let's take a deep breath and smile and see what we have in common and enjoy the sun or the rain and count up how many acts of kindness you can do in the next 24 hours. I challenge you. Thanks.
Thank you. That was lovely. Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to announce for any of those in North Eugene that may not have heard and are in fact watching this, that the tomorrow evening's Northeast Neighbors meeting has been canceled. For concerns over gathering in large numbers of people where viruses might be. So the leaders of the Neighborhood Association have postponed the Neighborhood Association meeting for tomorrow night. Thank you.
Okay, any other councilors? Manager, do you want to?
Yeah, I was just going to say mostly also for people in the audience that don't watch the tentative calendar every single minute of the day like I do and some of you do, that we did add a work session to the beginning of Wednesday's meeting that will be an update on our preparedness efforts around COVID-19. We'll be here, we'll have the chief, fire chief, our emergency manager, and my understanding is we have the incident commander from Lane County coming to talk about and what we're doing countywide around health concerns and also internally how we're planning and externally. So it'll be a little mix of both, but thought it would be good just to get you that information. I know a lot of you are on the League of Oregon Cities email serve. They also sent out an email today, or the Oregon Health Association did. And I just wanted to call attention to last week because I've been getting a lot of questions for how are we going to handle this with our unsheltered population and our shelters. And they did issue some advice, or whatever they call it, interim shelter guidance last week. And we've already been, Lane County Health has been meeting with all of those providers. So there's some really good guidelines. And I think Wednesday's update will be really helpful for you to understand how we're approaching this.
Great, thank you very much. Yes, Councilor
One quick one. The Franklin Boulevard Transformation Project, open house tomorrow, Tuesday, March 10th, from 3:30 to 6:30 at the Ford Alumni Center on campus, right there on Franklin, next to the Matt Knight Arena, 3:30 to 6:30. It's an open house, drop by. So I encourage everybody in that area who's interested in this project to go by and see the preferred alternatives.
Okay, everybody good? Thank you so much. All right, so we are ready for first, yes, item, everything working? First item of business, the consent calendar.
I move to approve the items on the consent calendar 1.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, none opposed. Thank you very much. Okay, now we are ready to roll into the public forum. Public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the city council on any city-related issues, except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda. We do have a public hearing tonight. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward, if known. The timer and lights indicate the time you have to speak. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light and a beep indicate the end of the 2 minutes. This is a piloting effort by council. We chose to make several changes to the public forum process that we hope will be more effective and equitable for everyone. In addition to the shortened time, we are reducing the overall time for the public forum to 90 minutes, and we are shuffling the names of the speakers so that they will be called, you will be called, in a random order. And then my usual instructions. I will read 2 names at a time. The first person can come directly to the podium, and the second person can be ready in the warm-up chair so that we can move through this smoothly. And a reminder that we are aiming to create and maintain a safe and respectful environment for the expression of all points of view. And we ask you to respect the rules outlined in our code of conduct, including no disruptive or disrespectful language or noises, no clapping, cheering, or booing. You can wave your hands, show of hands to support testimony. And also a reminder that no bags, briefcases, or backpacks are allowed up on the testimony table or the speaker's podium. And we reserve the right to ask people not to speak or to suspend the meeting if people don't follow these very simple rules. And so I have actually 38 people in the forum, but we are going to begin first with our youth ambassadors of Eugene who have just returned from Jeonju, South Korea, our sister city. And so we are welcoming Ashley Morzenti and Jasmine Vasquez.
So I'm Candace Shorek, the president of the Eugene Jeonju Sister City Committee, and we're really proud of our current ambassadors, and we are recruiting. Hopefully, there won't be a problem with health issues with travel this summer to Korea, but I'll let the girls introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Ashley Morzenti. I'm a sophomore at Willamette High School, and last summer I got to go to South Korea for a youth exchange. I went to Seoul and Jeonju, South Korea. Going on this trip helped me learn a lot and become lifelong friends with some Korean students, their families, and made me more open to Korean culture. I'm very thankful I was given this opportunity to go. In the beginning of this trip, we stayed in Seoul, South Korea for a week. I was immediately thrown into a new culture. We experienced late nights, crowded cities. One of the activities we did was going to Lotte Tower. Lotte Tower is one of the tallest towers in Korea. Just to get to the top, we had to take an elevator all the way up. Once we got to the top, there was a little shops and cafes all around, and this beautiful view of the entire city. There was an area where you could stand on glass and see under the tower and take pictures. It was really cool. While we were in Seoul, we also went to see Gyeongbokgung Palace and Yongin Folk Village, where we saw the history of South Korea. Both places were very beautiful, and it was very interesting to see the two differences between living. For the second week in Korea, we were in Jeonju, South Korea, where we did even more fun activities. I got to spend time with both my host families and see the city. They showed me all these fun cafes, like a slime cafe, and a cat cafe, and a computer cafe. Both families took me in and treated me like their own kid. It was very welcoming. I miss everyone I met in Korea and still keep in touch with them now. While I was in Jeonju, we got to do a temple stay in a Buddhist all-female temple. We wore traditional clothes, ate with the monks, and took a tour of the temple, and also bowed 108 times with them. It was definitely an amazing experience and a trip I'll never forget. I'm so grateful I got to go. Thank you so much for letting me do this trip. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Vasquez, and I go to Willamette. I'm a sophomore at Willamette High School. And my experience going to Korea was very amazing, and I want to thank everyone here for coming here today. And I especially want to thank the Jeonju Korea committee that made all of this possible. Going to Korea and getting to experience a new culture and meeting new people was amazing. I will never forget this trip. I had always wanted to visit South Korea, and I recently had the opportunity to spend 2 weeks in this amazing country. It was an interesting place with a unique culture and highly developed economy. On arrival, we flew into the Incheon airport. When we got to Seoul, it was marked with modern skyscrapers and high-design shopping malls that were immediately striking. There were many streets lined by fancy boutiques and leading to a labyrinth of narrow alleyways with tiny traditional shops and eateries. During our first week in Seoul, when we visited attractions around there, my favorite places we visited were Gyeongbok Palace and Yongin Folk Village, as well as other museums we went throughout the trip. The places were very important to me, learning the background and knowledge of South Korea's history, as well as a wonderful learning experience. I feel like a big part of the trip was the bond and friendships I made with the Jeonju kids. We spent most of our week in Jeonju for the first part of the days going and doing activities. Then in the afternoon, we would sometimes go out and have fun. I felt the biggest bonding activity, in my opinion, was our temple stay to the Buddhist monk we went to, which is a very fun and new, unique experience. We got to stay there overnight and see the beautiful nature all around, as well as learn some new things about the traditional life and customs. During our time in Jeonju, we stayed with our host families, and I appreciated both of my host families' hospitality, and I'm very thankful to have stayed with them. They did their best to show me around Korea as much as they could and how their daily lives look alike. They made me feel very welcomed and comfortable. Hopefully, I get to visit them soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank both of you for sharing your experiences with us. That was really wonderful to hear, and glad you had such good experiences. Okay, and now for the public forum itself. First up is Nate Otto, followed by Tom Peck.
All right, thank you for your time. This is my first city council meeting that I'm at, so what luck that I get drawn first. I'm here to talk about an issue that I care about a lot, which is star voting. We have an opportunity here in Eugene, in Lane County, and in Oregon to show the entire country that the process of elections can be better. And it can be better to participate in as individuals, and it can be better for the folks who are elected. Right now in the system where we have, you select one voting, there you can see in the latest two presidential primaries, which are probably some of the most rancorous elections that we're familiar with right now, with huge number of candidates, interesting policy positions where people are vying legitimately to figure out what the direction of our country should be. And yet people are just in consternation and worry constantly about where their one chance of putting their voice can go, choosing that they need to vote strategically because if they choose a candidate that is not viable to gain a majority or gain a plurality, their vote is wasted. And potentially a candidate who they really don't like, that they agree with the least, is the one who gets elevated to the elected position. With star voting, public has an opportunity to cast what I call a high bandwidth vote. You can not only declare your first choice, you can also register support for a second and third choice. And the final candidates go, and the one who has the best public support will win the election and will represent the people. You could think how much this would change our elections if we didn't have our peers on social media constantly worrying about where we are going to put our voice, and if we could all come together and talk about which candidates we support and the policy positions that we want, casting our vote for exactly what we want to see in public representation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tom Peck, followed by David Ivan Piccioni. Remember to say which ward you live in, if you know. Thank you.
I'm Tom Peck, live in Eugene, live in the Friendly District. I'm not sure which ward that is. And I'm here to talk about the COVID-19. I'm a volunteer with House Everyone, and we are an advocacy group for the unhoused. As we all know, the governor has declared a state of emergency, and the implications for the unhoused, who are the most vulnerable to disease, are huge. And so we put together a few recommendations. I will put them in your inbox. But they're basically that there's a moratorium on evictions, and I know the city may or may not have control over that, but it's also opening up in this period, which is a 90 or a 60-day period, that there's housing made, or sites made where people can camp, because there's really not enough shelters. And as a volunteer at Egan, they're hurting for volunteers because of this. So opening up places where people can camp. And then the last is opening up testing sites so it'll be easy access so they can be tested for this virus. So I sent all this to your emails as well, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. David Ivan Piccioni, followed by Samuel Shaw.
Hi, I live in Eugene. My name is David Ivan Piccioni, and I was wearing these glasses until they fell off my face because I support Star Voting. And Sarah Wolf has been handing these out and working as a multi-pronged attack against this undemocratic way of doing things that we've been having all these times. So I found out today on Democracy Now! That the biggest forest in Africa, as well as our very own, well, not own, but South American, what's that called? The Amazon jungle is no longer carbon sink. They're no longer carbon sinks. People burn. They cut them all up, then they burn it, and they plant seeds to graze the cattle. Unfortunately, these the grass grows only 1 or 2 seasons after the cattle graze on it, and then they have to go and cut more land to do the same self-suicide process that we're doing. So as Lao Tzu has said, I would rather withdraw an inch than advance a foot. So I think that's what we need to do. And oh, yeah, I'm totally against this building these things along the river. That is not good. We're moving closer to the river, building houses. There's no life. Why don't we plant some trees there? Who wants these developers here? I don't want them. Fuck them.
Samuel Shaw, followed by Brett Blunden.
How's it going? Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I just want to say that, oh yeah, my name is Sam Shaw, Whitaker neighborhood. But I just want to say that when you guys are thinking about star voting, you probably have a lot of questions about it. And I had a lot of the same questions too. I was wondering, is it worth it? How expensive is it? Is it even going to work? Is it just a drop in the bucket? But I stand before you now as like a chief petitioner of star voting for Lane County, and I'm really enthusiastic about it. I think it's really a cost-effective way to make elections run more smoothly, and it may seem like a drop in the bucket, but all over the country right now, there are chapters of star voting popping up in Texas, Albany, New York, multiple here in Oregon, and we're continuing to grow. And I think that says something. Something that started like right here in Eugene. So citizens all over the country want a voting system they can have confidence in, and if they don't have confidence in their voting system, voters are liable to not have any confidence in the government at all, or any of its institutions. And so star voting empowers voters by not having to vote for the lesser of two evils, allowing them to show their preference for each candidate, and removing that strategic voting, so you have to vote honestly with star. So Eugenians take pride in being innovative and able to make ideas that seem outside the realm of possibility reality. This is a chance to put Eugene on the map for something that's cool as voting reform. Already in the past election, when it was star voting for Lane County, the folks in Eugene had already voted with majority to want to pass star voting. So I call on you today to please refer it to the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Brett Blunden, followed by Chris Widup.
Hello, Council. My name is Brett Blunden. I live in Eugene. I'm in Ward 5, I believe, in North Eugene. Thanks. I'm here to express my support for the short-term rentals that we have in this city. I'm a proud father of 4, and one thing that we have difficulty with when we travel or go anywhere is finding places to stay. We like to use things like Airbnb and that sort of thing. Hotels, generally, the maximum occupancy in the room is 4 people, so it leaves you with the option of either lying or sneaking kids in or renting 2 rooms, and that's not much of a vacation to stay in different rooms. I'd also say, we had the ability to stay in one of these during our last snowstorm. The power went out at our house. It was out for 7 days. We toughed it out for a while, but after about 3 days, we needed to go and get showers and that sort of thing. So it was a great resource to have. So I really do appreciate that. And I've heard a lot of the objections with the short-term rentals, and just one of the issues I want to acknowledge is the affordable housing in Eugene. That truly is an issue, and recognize that. But I do not see short-term rentals as being the cause of that issue. I remember discussing this in high school in our civics classes about some of the policies that we're going through in the state of Oregon. Now, I realize not much the city can do about that, but just some other things that I was thinking about is permit fees and that sort of thing. There may be an opportunity to look into some of those and see if there was a way to reduce some of those. They're quite significant. I just looked up the permit fees on the city's website. It's 18 pages long and is a significant portion of building any new housing. So with that, I'll leave it there. Thank you for taking my comments.
Thank you. Chris Widup, followed by Alan Zundel.
Good evening. My name is Chris Widup. I reside in Ward 1 and own and operate a short-term rental property in Eugene in Ward 3. I've become increasingly concerned that this important source of income for my family is in jeopardy of being removed. After reading the city's STR webpage, participating in the STR open house, and attending the most recent ad hoc committee meeting, it appears as if the major complaints against STRs are largely anecdotal and not indicative of or generalizable to STRs as a whole. There's no valid data to support any of the arguments against STRs or warrant regulation. I worked as a data analyst for a nonprofit health research group for 20 years, and during this time, I was directly involved in over 50 projects funded by the Department of Education and the National Institutes of Health. The data that informed the research and development of the interventions in these projects was paramount to their success and their benefit to society. Without valid and reliable data, it's impossible to make informed decisions. One of the only publications that does contain actual data is the Eugene Housing Tools and Strategies Evaluation Report that was prepared by Strategic Economics. This report advocates higher numbers of accessory dwelling units and multiplex structures. Another report by Sisson and Kovash, which specifically identifies STRs within the city limits and dispels the myths about the viability of these properties as long-term rentals. While these reports were discussed peripherally at the ad hoc committee meeting, it didn't appear as if anyone on the committee who was anti-STR was interested in reviewing data or hearing opposing viewpoints. One individual actually noted as an affected neighbor said that facts are inconsequential as they won't support the message I'm trying to get across. Coming from someone charged with making recommendations that will influence regulation which stands to affect the livelihood of hundreds of individuals and families in this community is nothing short of alarming. Consider, if you will, the ramifications of disregarding data for any other issue you can think of, say education or climate change or public health. I very much appreciate your time and the opportunity to speak to the council about this matter.
Thank you. Alan Zundel, followed by Stephanie McLaughlin.
Good evening. My name is Alan Zundel. I live in the city of Eugene. I'm in Ward 1. I'm retired. I'm here to thank you for scheduling a work session to consider putting the Star Voting Initiative on the November ballot. I was a political science professor, and during the course of my career, I became convinced that the single thing that we could do to improve our political life overall was adopting a better voting method than the types we generally used in the United States. There's a number of alternative voting systems used in other countries, and I became a proponent of ranked choice voting. I worked to promote that for about 13 years, including the successful ballot initiative in Benton County in 2016. Right after that, though, I became aware of Star Voting, which was recently developed, and I spent about 6 months studying it, debating it, discussing it, and I became convinced that this is far and away the superior form, or would be the superior form, for electing a single candidate to a public office. So I think adopting star voting would be a historic first for the city of Eugene, on par with things like the initiative and referendum. So thank you for getting to the point of considering this, and I hope we can move forward and not only get it on the ballot, but pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie McLaughlin, followed by Charles Fournier.
Hi, Stephanie McLaughlin, Ward 2, but I think I've lived in all of your wards at some point. I wanted to build upon what Chris and the previous speaker who was speaking to short-term rentals said, in that we're not allowed to even provide data to the ad hoc committee. And several of us here have put in a lot of hours doing the research that the city doesn't have the resources to do. So I would ask you to please allow us to provide that data for your perusal, if not, yours and the ad hoc committees, because believe me, you don't want to go through the 500 to 700 pages of stuff we've already accumulated. We'd like to make it easier for you and get to the point of being able to propose sensible regulation and at least registration in order to get even better, more accurate data for what is currently going on now. I'd also like to speak to the affordable housing issue and the cost of permitting. Is it not possible to ask our local developers, Bruce Weicker among them, to contribute a portion of, for a percentage of their product to be directed toward low income? Do we do that? I would be glad to give a moment here to have someone answer that question. Do we require large developers to cater to lower income housing? We give them breaks.
We have, do you want to?
It's really a process call for you if you want to get into it.
We actually don't do a back and forth, but you can connect with staff here and ask and have that conversation, all right?
Okay, I'd like to know who. I'll connect with you after. And as far as sharing, or the overlaps between short-term rentals and being a causative agent for homelessness, we've had homelessness here for a lot longer than we've had short-term rentals of this kind. So I would like to be able to, thank you.
Thank you. Charles Fournier, followed by Wayne Martin.
Good evening, Charles Fournier. I'm living in Ward number 3, and I'm here to speak in support of star voting. Eugene and N County are facing complex structural challenges that will take years to solve and require both difficult budget arbitrage and sustained financial commitment. They also require our elected officials to muster as much community support as they can to resist special interest. And I believe that star voting will help you get that community support. The list of issues our community is facing, is long and sobering. We can start with housing affordability crisis. In 2017, Eugene officially became the nation's second most constrained real estate market in the U.S., worse than San Francisco and only second to Seattle. We also have 1,633 unsheltered people, men, women, children. And our community cannot even muster the courage to invest in a much-needed county courthouse to replace a building built in 1959 that does not meet the ADA requirement and is unsafe and practical for juries, court staff, and legal counsel. Eugene has a long-standing reputation as a bastion of progressive values, but as those who have thought special use permit to build townhouse communities, who have thought financial means to build courthouse or safer schools, have faced an avalanche of opposition from special interest. And this entrenched group can disrupt elections. Star voting has none of the flaw of our current system and as you have heard, many qualities that are very unique. More fundamentally, star voting will lead to election outcomes where a higher percentage of the population will end up feeling invested in the outcome and truly represented by its elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Wayne Martin, followed by Erica Probst.
I'm Wayne Martin. I'm losing my voice, and I'm in Ward 1. Is the policy now to put
Please.
Yeah, good. I'm here to make a very simple statement, and that is that the people I've been mostly concerned about since the TAC report was done and delivered and now is being responded to are people who have no prospect of a roof over their head for the next 2 years. So I'm concerned about sheltering. I'm concerned about making it safer for people to sleep outdoors. Notice I didn't say camping. Camping's what I do on weekends. This is not really camping. This is sleeping. What is it the council would be willing to talk about in order to begin taking small pieces of public land and letting 8 to 10 people sleep there in their tents, finding and knowing that it exists, the money to pay them, to pay not the campers so much as the leaders, somebody that is picked to and designated 2 people for every 8 or 10. And they need to be compensated for keeping order and keeping rules in the camps. So I urge you to do what you can and be creative and use your new hiree, Sarai Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you. Erica Probst, followed by Kim Highland.
Hi, I'm Erica Probst, and I am coming from the Friendly Area Neighbors Transportation Committee, and we have been working on a project for about 5 years that addresses dangerous conditions on Jefferson Street, and we have finally come to a calming project in planning with the transportation planning team here with the City of Eugene. Rob Interfield and Chris Henry have done really good work coming up with a plan. We have we're trying to address issues that include property damage, injury, and death that have occurred on our street, speed related, and unfortunately there is some pushback. And we wanted to share some concerns about that and invite anyone who would like to understand more from the neighborhood themselves and the people living on the street of what the issues are and how we have already tried multiple things outside of the current plan, which is involving cushions, similar to what's on 24th. And we would invite them to come to one of our transportation meetings. We're meeting every Monday, first Monday of the month at Billy Mack. We did have a public meeting to discuss this. We invited the neighbors. We sent out door hangers all over the neighborhood. We had, the city actually sent out postcards as well. We had over 60 people attend. The comments were overwhelmingly in favor of the project. I do not recall anyone outspokenly opposing the project, which we were actually a little surprised of. But then there was a publication recently that I do not understand why Register Guard published this op-ed, but it involved a lot of misinformation. So thank you.
Thank you. Kim Highland, followed by Sue Sierra Lupe.
Hi, good evening. This is my first speaking at the meeting. I am Kim Highland. I live in Ward 1, and I am a short-term rental host in Ward 1. A brand new host. I've put so much effort and time and money into this thing, and to think that I'm not going to be able to use it for the way I planned when I bought it is pretty disheartening. I would like to piggyback on some of the other people who spoke and ask that you really consider the facts in the whole process and allow facts to come into the process, because it does feel like there's a lot of emotion obviously, but on all sides, but to kind of put that aside and look at what's really true and what's really able to be validated. And I would also like to ask if there's ever an opportunity for a different format of discussion, because we stand here and we talk to you, you don't respond, and then you respond or you talk and we can't respond, but there's never a sit down where there's a back and forth where we can really talk. I know the ad hoc committee is kind of set up to be that, but it doesn't feel balanced. And so I would love to be able to have conversations that are really focused on data, on what's true, and not allowing in frustrations and emotions, and just looking at the data. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Sue Sierra-Lupe, followed by Steve Piercy.
Hello, my name is Sue Sierra-Lupe, and I am the clinic director for Occupy Medical. I am a longtime resident of Ward 1, and thank you all for your service. Where did I go? I have been coming to Eugene City Council for requesting the same thing since 2011, and I am once again advocating for public sanitation. As you know, our governor declared a state of emergency due to the spread of COVID-19. The primary advice from the CDC and health officials was the same: wash your hands. Wash your hands, for those in the back. Thus far, we understand that the coronavirus is spread through droplets. This is a respiratory illness. This means that once an infected person has an unconfined sneeze or cough, the virus has been transmitted out of the body of the patient and onto a surface. There it waits patiently for one of us to drag our hands over it and bring it to our mouth or nose. According to a study published in NCBI, we touch our faces an average of 23 times per hour. The odds of transmission are squarely in favor of the virus. Keep in mind that even with a mask on, we still touch our faces. Thus, hand washing is vital. Soap and water. It sounds simple, but that is our best defense. I'm here to ask that bathrooms be opened unconditionally. In the past, bathrooms were opened upon the condition that they were kept clean. The reality is that people are messy. Disgustingly messy. We are so messy, we have a special room to contain the gooeyest of these messes. Now, I understand that bathrooms get gross. I work in medicine. I have a large family. I've been a social worker. I get it. But these bathrooms, without being opened unconditionally, will guarantee the spread of this virus.
Thank you. Steve Piercy, followed by Jay Concada.
Hi, my name is Steve Piercy, Ward 1. I am co-chair of the Friendly Area Neighbors Transportation Team, a subcommittee of our neighborhood association. Our team focuses on transportation safety, mobility, and equity, and its effect on climate change. I'm here to make a request to City Council to provide leadership and direction for transportation that is aligned with both our and the city's own goals in its plans and policies. The United States Center for Disease Control lists traffic collisions as the leading cause of death for people aged 1 to 24, and the third leading cause of death for those aged 25 to 34. If we want to stop this epidemic public health crisis, let's make it a top priority to stop preventable deaths and serious injuries from traffic collisions. The most effective way to improve safety for all road users is to stop speeding drivers by changing the built environment using traffic calming measures. Unfortunately, the city budgets a pittance of $100,000 per year to traffic calming. The top reason more people don't walk or bike is because of a perceived lack of safety. When there is no safe, separated, and connected network to walk or bike around town, we will not attain our goals of tripling the percentage of these trips and reducing emissions from driving. To summarize, I want to make specific requests of council to take action without delay. Number one, allocate more funding to traffic calming to deal with this public health crisis. And two, direct the city manager to prioritize safety over traffic and parking concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay Concata, followed by Rich Self.
Cool. Yeah, hi. My name is Jay Sincata. I am in Ward 3 in the South Hills, and I really appreciate you holding this public forum tonight and all the people who've come. This is, democracy in action. And I'm a newcomer to Eugene. I actually just moved here about a year and a half ago, November 2nd, 4 days before the election. And due to the great staff and volunteers in this very building, I was able to get registered in time and get my ballot in. And it was, I love the pamphlet. I came from the DC area where it was pretty much only 2 parties. And there were like 9 parties represented in the pamphlet and detailed descriptions of what they were all about. And I love that. I love that diversity of thought. And then I saw, all the lawn signs for Star. And I had already been a fan of ranked choice voting. And I got really intrigued when I learned that Star actually improves on that. It does a better job with the spoiler effect and strategic voting and all the structural problems with our current voting system. And I was so disappointed that it missed by 7,000 some votes when there were like 21,000 ballots that didn't vote one way or the other. So I've been volunteering along with so many other people here to get it back on the initiative for this election. I'm asking for your support. STAR is a more expressive voting system that produces results in an election that better reflect the will of the people, and I really appreciate you supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich Self, followed by Travis Johannes.
Thank you, councilors. I'm Richard Self, Ward 1, but always Ward 9. I thank you very much for this opportunity. It's been 2 years since I've been housed after a decade without, and in that time, I've come to have gratitude and encouragement for what the city is prepared to do and is doing to help the unhoused. Most encouraging was the recent announcement that the city is determined to go forward with the plans for the Low Barrier Shelter, Navigation Center, and Day Resource Center, despite the loss of $5 million that was possibly coming from the state. This is most encouraging to me. Even more encouraging would be for this council to seriously entertain and consider the report by Lori Haber and the Law Center for a work session in the very near future. It's advised in this report, and I continue to state, as long as the tax implementation that I am encouraged by tonight continues to be olive branches with thorns, if you will, this won't do. Ordinances that simply criminalize people for being unhoused or impairs people's ability to obtain housing via citations, misdemeanors, and fines they cannot pay send the wrong message. Help the unhoused help you by adopting recommendations in the report so your hard work is respected and appreciated in the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Travis Johannes, followed by Sarah Wolk.
Hi, my name is Travis Johannes. I live in Ward 7 and a member of the Active Bethel Citizens. We were here a couple weeks ago, and you guys were all very supportive, and we wanted to thank you for that. We had one more that we didn't get to that time, so I wanted to bring it up tonight. As a resident of Bethel, one of the most glaring differences we see compared to the rest of the city is the lack of investment and fund allocation to community development projects. It doesn't take long to notice that Bethel is kind of well behind the rest of Eugene. As far as infrastructure, recreation, environmental safety, and business and amenities. We've seen the Bethel included in the city plans, such as Envision Eugene and Building a Better Bethel, and plans to improve parks and recreation. But because Bethel is right now so far behind other neighborhoods and development. We urge the council to not just equally include Bethel, but maybe prioritize Bethel as a high-need area requiring more development to catch up to the quality of neighborhoods in the other parts of Eugene. Right now, Bethel's kind of seen as the front door. You come off the airport and you're driving through Bethel, and right now our front door doesn't look that good. So we just wanted to, Bethel deserves to be more than just kind of a side thought or a pass-through in the portion of the city. And that's about all I got. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Sarah Wolk, followed by Bruce Sisson.
Thank you. I'm Sarah Wolk, Executive Director of the Equal Vote Coalition, Ward 1. And I've been working on the star voting ballot initiatives for 3 years now. Actually, 4 years now. I started in Portland doing the same thing. But star voting, for those of you who haven't had it explained, is really simple. You score your candidates up to 5 stars. STAR stands for score, then automatic runoff, and that's exactly how it works. Your vote automatically goes to the finalist you preferred between the 2 highest scoring candidates if your favorite can't win. And that's what really empowers voters to be able to vote their conscience without fear of wasting their vote. So for me as a voter, what inspired me to get into election reform in the first place was the fact that until we can truly voice our opinion, honestly, without having these incentives to vote for whoever we see as more electable, it's not an empowering system, and it's always going to bias in favor of who we see as most electable. That's a problem that can be solved with star voting. So star voting is an Oregon-grown voting method which offers a nationally viable model. This is our opportunity to be leaders in election integrity with a proposal that fully delivers on a wide variety of our goals. With star voting, we would skip the low turnout primary for local nonpartisan races and just vote once in November. A list of things that star voting accomplishes is A, star voting is a logistically viable, scalable voting method, which goes much further than other options out there. And unlike other options, star voting is compatible with top-notch election security and auditing protocols. Star voting is highly accurate, topping the charts in simulations and studies, no matter how many candidates or parties are in the race. And that is really a game changer. Our current system is only accurate with 2 candidates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce Sisson, followed by Jonathan Miller.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bruce Sisson. I live in Ward 2, and I've met with a number of you about the STR issue. Thank you for your time tonight. I would like to highlight question 5 of the city survey on STRs, which was, have you experienced any of the following with short-term rentals? I found it difficult to easily interpret the charts in the city report, so I took the results for question 5 and made 2 charts that hopefully spell it out more clearly. Despite the survey being completed by the last day of February, the results were not discussed or reviewed at the second STR meeting, at the ad hoc committee meeting. The data shows clearly that the majority of respondents support STRs in Eugene for a diverse number of reasons. Also, there were 323 total comments made by respondents and 175 favorable, 54%, and 127 unfavorable, 39%, and 21 combined favorable and unfavorable. I would encourage you to read them all as they raise many valid points on both sides. I will email the charts to you for review. Also, I request that the ad hoc committee be video recorded. It's been hard to watch for public records, as was done for the ad hoc committee for Housing Tools and Strategy last year. And I'd like to just give you a glimpse of these charts, if I can get them separated. The green are the favorable comments, and the green are the responses. favorable.
Thank
the
you.
blues are negatives.
Thank you. Jonathan Miller, followed by Joshua Korn.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Miller, and I am from Ward 2, and I am here tonight to urge you to approve star voting for use in Eugene elections. In the coming years, as you can imagine, we're about to undergo massive societal changes. How we live, how we eat, how we drive, how we work are all going to change. With the emergence of these previously unimaginable technologies straight out of science fiction, from autonomous vehicles to human genome editing, we need a democracy that can keep up. We already see every day how the current voting system and the two-party system from which it stems contributes to legislative stagnation. It's really, really difficult to get meaningful reform passed. And this is becoming increasingly frustrating for both the electorate and for the lawmakers who swore an oath to advocate on behalf of their constituents. Right now, we're told to pick a side. It's yes or no, left or right, red or blue. But that's not how we are as a people or as a society. We have overlapping beliefs. We very often like two candidates equally and want to show our support for both. Star voting was created here in Oregon by a team of election experts who were looking for a better way. A system that could actually bring all people with their many faceted views and beliefs together. A voting system that could show statistically where we agree, where we disagree, and exactly how close we are. In a fast-moving, modern democracy, this kind of information is invaluable. And it's only possible through star voting. These election experts from both sides of the aisle have determined it's the safest, simplest, and easiest way to improve the electoral process for big cities, rural areas, red or blue states, and where it matters most on every ballot which we cast. Thanks.
Thank you. Joshua Korn, followed by Holly Berry.
Joshua Korn, South Eugene. And to continue on the discussion on 5G wireless, I want to bring up a report published by the Harvard School of Ethics, which you can get from ethics.harvard.edu. It's called Captured Agency: How the Federal Communications Commission is Dominated by the Industries It Presumably Regulates. And so you can review this on your own. But moving forward on the NEPA review process that we've discussed previously, just want to get into a little more detail of what that encompasses. It comes down to the FCC Rule 1-1307, which basically says that every wireless telecommunications facility that's over 1,000 watts of effective radiated power, which really is every single transmitter that's installed, that is within 10 feet of the ground, and it requires a NEPA review. National Environmental Protection Act, which was passed January 1st, 1970, it requires a environmental assessment and environmental impact statement to be made for every application. And so this is a really basic process that puts the FCC, it forces the FCC to do their job. And what we know now is that the FCC is not going to do their job. They're not forcing the telecoms to have fines for violating all these things that they're doing. So please, thank you.
Thank you. Holly Berry, followed by Christina Lang.
Hi, I'm Holly Berry. I thank you very much for all the work that you guys do up here. I'm from Ward 2, and I'm here to talk about short-term rentals, restrictions that are coming in the new vote. new policies that you're trying to make. I own a non-owner occupied Airbnb in Ward 1 as well as an owner occupied in Ward 2. And these units support my income. The policies that you're proposing to limit STRs are affecting the middle class in this town, which we are really, I feel, do a lot of supporting already. We represent hardworking and retired entrepreneurs in our community and young families, and it helps them support their income. I've been an artist for many years, and owning real estate was my retirement plan, and this impact hits hard, especially I want to talk about the 90-day limit. If we have 90 days limits of my non-owner occupied home, I can't spend the money to furnish it or maintain the property because of these limitations. It's other improvements help keep my property looking great. It was a long-term rental, and the neighbors are so much happier now that it's short-term. If you look down the street, sometimes you'll see long-term rentals that just, they no matter how good you are, they fall apart because you can't be there daily. Also, on a community level, this 90-day policy would close down the extra short-term housing. Most people would rent them in the summer for graduation and sporting events, leaving a shortage of other important things like football games, conferences, weekends, Thanksgiving. I just feel like this is another restriction to the middle class to find ways to tie their hands, not to use what they have to make a living. And there's few living wage jobs in this town. So I just ask you to take a look at that.
Thank you. Christina Lang, followed by Anthony Martins.
Hi, my name is Christina Lang. I live in Ward 2, and I have a long-term rental in Ward 1, and I manage a short-term rental in Ward 5. The short-term rental is my parents' house. It's not their full-time residence yet, but they're getting older and they need more help, so they'll eventually move here. So I'm here to advocate for my parents and for other temporary residents. At the house, we've had groups of construction workers here for short-term projects. We've had families in town for graduations, volleyball tournaments. We had old friends reuniting to go to the country fair. We even had a couple from Argentina who were matched with a surrogate in Eugene, and they came for the birth of their baby, and they spent the first critical weeks with bonding with their baby at our house. And of course, my parents coming to spend time with their grandkids and transitioning to permanent residency here. For those people, a hotel room just really is not a comfortable option for them. And I think that whole house short-term rentals really provide a home away from home that is a very nice option. This is not a money-making business for my family. If we had it as a long-term rental, it would make a lot more money. And it's a ton of work for me. So, and what we do make just usually doesn't cover the monthly expenses, but it's worth it for, to have a place for my parents to stay when they're here. And if we didn't have that option, they would have to get rid of that house. And so I'm just hoping that you'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony Martins, followed by Mark Osterloh.
Hi, Anthony Martins, Ward 3. I work for Bethel School District, and among other duties, I teach math. I support star voting because it is simply and mathematically the most democratic method of all the methods I've researched. I found out about it back when I lived in Colorado, actually. I didn't even hear about it here. I moved here and was super excited that this is where it was from. It's a good voting method. But what I'd like to talk about actually has to do with the system to get things on the ballot. So I was a chief petitioner, and we put a lot of effort into that. I watched it. We had over 100 people gathering signatures. There was energy. There was movement. And we fell just short. So you need like 9,000 signatures, and you need them in 100 days. And that's really my big issue is the 100 days. That's a breakneck speed. Largely because they don't all count. So many of them will get invalidated due to lots of reasons. For instance, not everybody that lives in Eugene counts for purposes of being on a ballot. And the rules are a bit confusing. Also, a lot of our signatures were invalidated because the signatures did not match, which is to prevent fraud, we did not forge those signatures. We actually got affidavits. That wasn't good enough. That comes down to a handwriting test, which is kind of problematic if you got arthritis or something between the times that you signed. But in any case, what this amounts to is it makes it really difficult to get something on the ballot if you don't have paid signature gatherers. And we even had some. And so that sort of requires like a corporation or a wealthy person to rubber stamp things. Otherwise, it's just really difficult to get something on the ballot if you're a volunteer force of working people. I feel like that you could make this right by getting it on the ballot, so please do that. And the other thing is if you could look at that 100-day rule, that'd be great. I don't even know why it's there. People's opinions aren't going to change that much in 100 days. I think you can make it a year or two. Then they could be as strict as they want with the invalidation, and we'll have time to go get more signatures. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Osterloh, followed by Todd Boyle.
My name is Mark Osterloh, Ward 4. I'm a retired physician with a law degree. I'm a strong proponent of star voting, a new, more efficient, more economical, and more representative way of voting. I was an unpaid volunteer who personally collected 4,762 petition signatures, more than anyone else, by standing outside the motor vehicle department for 13 weeks, Monday through Friday, from 7:30 to 4:30 p.m. Many individuals were favorably impressed with this voting method because it consolidates the primary and general elections into one election. In primary elections, the few individuals that vote tend to be very passionate and dogmatic in their beliefs. This often results in far-right and far-left candidates leaving the reasonable middle devoid of candidates who can work through compromise to get things accomplished instead of spending all their time attacking the other side. Lane County Elections ruled that our initiative came up 22 signatures short based on a 20% sample, claiming that the signatures did not match those on file. When voters are asked to sign petitions, they are frequently rushed and sign in a hurry. The result is that their signatures are not the most elegant. After the ruling that we had insufficient signatures, I personally contacted 31 of those voters whose signatures were rejected and so showed them signatures on their respective petition sheets. Every single one of them, 100% said yes. They signed that petition and that was their signature. Every one of them signed a sworn and notarized affidavit to that effect. I believe you've been given copies. Lane County Elections said that we were 22 signatures short, but we provided them with proof that 31 of the contestants' signatures were indeed valid. In spite of the obvious error, they refused to change their opinion. Because the election department refused to consider the facts in this matter, we are asking the city council and mayor to rectify this injustice and place star voting on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Todd Boyle, followed by Karen Alvarado.
Todd Boyle, I'm in Allen Zelenka's ward. Damn, I'm so grateful to the star voting people. They're on the right track. I came here tonight to raise up the visibility of this report. Persecution of the unhoused, fines and jail time for having nowhere else to go in Eugene, Oregon, prepared by Lane County Legal Aid and the Oregon Law Center. And this was read and endorsed by the Human Rights Commission of the City of Eugene. The city operates a number of these boards and commissions, the Planning Commission and the ETAC, Guiding Future of Land Use Planning. And so I think you should take it seriously when your Human Rights Commission asks you to have a work session on this report. And but I just have to comment on the hundreds of people who have come forward in the last 3 to 4 weeks on the problem of short-term rentals. And I haven't heard anybody speak against the idea of short-term rentals. And I like short-term rentals, but this phenomenon of concentrated benefit and diffused cost to society there's never been a more clear exhibition of this than the last month. And, you know, we had a meeting at the City Club where there was a smackdown of anybody who opposed short-term rentals. And so here's the problem. We've been here, we've heard many testimonies from advocates of middle housing that if we build middle housing for the 3rd and 4th and 5th deciles of incomes in Eugene, and we give MUPTI subsidies and support lots of middle housing, then that would trickle down to availability of housing for the bottom 10%. And actually, what the short-term rental people said at City Club was that their 1,000 short-term rentals didn't subtract from the availability of housing for poor people because it doesn't trickle down. And so I'd like to introduce the short-term rental people to the advocates for middle housing and let them duke it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Alvarado, followed by Tim Kovash.
I'm Karen Alvarado. I'm in Ward 3. I'm speaking to the STRS issue. I'm concerned about the efficacy of the ad hoc committee and its ability to accomplish its mission because of time constraints and acquisition of fact-based and reliable data. Information is not being provided to the ad hoc volunteer committee in a timely fashion. Being expected to absorb and understand a data dump of 700 pages in a very limited amount of time is unreasonable. Yet, it is important for Council to have recommendations based upon clear and accurate data in order to make informed decisions. Elected officials need to be sure that reports and recommendations provided by advisory committees are based upon facts, and that an adequate amount of time exists for such committees to thoroughly assess and understand fact-based information provided by staff. The efficiency of the committee is reduced by the inadequacy of its resources. Given this, I'm concerned about the ability of the committee to provide recommendations to Council based upon fact-based, data-substantiated evidence. I put some papers in there for you to look at. A second concern is premised on the existence of HB 2001. The nature of Eugene neighborhoods will change radically with the implementation of this law, which essentially eradicates all R1 residential zoning. In cities over 10,000 population by 2023, all such cities will be required to allow duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, and ADUs in all R1 zoned areas, and no off-street parking shall be required. It seems that the City Council needs to take into consideration, read the report. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Tim Kovash, followed by Rowan.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. My name is Tim Kovash. I'm a Eugene resident from Ward 3. We wanted to give you a brief update on the STR ad hoc committee conversation. You were very clear when creating the committee that you wanted more data before making a decision about what an STR ordinance might look like. Some of you also stressed that the need for fair representation on the committee. As you are probably aware, staff appointed the committee choosing 5 impacted neighbors, 5 STR hosts, 4 housing advocates, and 2 special interest representatives that are hotel lobbyists. One of the 2 happened to be the facilitator for the first meeting. If any of you had been able to listen in on the first 2 meetings, you would have easily concluded that the committee is far from being fair and balanced. It is clear that almost everyone seems intent on voicing their own interests and are unwilling to discuss both sides of any issue. There is no outline of a collaborative process, no clear goals, and no experienced facilitator to lead the group back on track when the loudest voices are dominating the discussion. The first committee meeting immediately showcased that the data you asked for does not exist. There's a limited amount of data available on AirDNA and a handful of studies, but none can answer the question of how many non-owner occupied units are in Eugene that could or would end up on the long-term rental housing market. Without this information, it is not possible to determine what effect, if any, these STRs have on housing availability and affordability. These potential regulations could have far-reaching impacts on the businesses and income of many community members, and we ask that you make these decisions on real data, not opinions and perceptions. After a number of committee members raised concerns about the objectivity of a committee member or moderator during the first meeting of a city employee from the engineering department was brought in as a replacement for the second meeting. While she may have indeed been impartial, she was clearly inexperienced as a facilitator and had little knowledge about STRs.
Thank you. Rowan, followed by Pamela Kraus.
Rowan, Ward 1, talking about 5G, an incredibly complex issue with a lot at stake. A lot of people involved. I'm trying to move the ball forward and make more sense of this issue. I talked with my commissioner at eWeb and the commissioner at large, and the general manager, Frank Lawson, again, with some coaching from Councilor Clark. And I think I was able to move things forward a little bit more there. And now I'll be spending more time on the state legal code to look for low-risk ways that the commissioners might feel comfortable in moving forward on. But the thing that looks to me like it holds the most promise is the application process that the city does control. And since I last talked here, I have been in conversation with City Manager Maderi and staff. So hopefully I'll get a better sense of what they think about any risk that might be involved, and maybe a possible vote from City Council might be in order. But first I'll look to the City Manager for her opinion at some point in the near future. And I want to underscore something that Josh said about the meters that are within 10, or sorry, the poles or the antenna that are that are 10 meters or lower, not 10 feet, and that are above 1,000 watts ERP, should, according to law, trigger a NEPA review, National Environmental Policy Act review. The FCC tried to abandon this, it's a long-standing precedent. The FCC tried to abandon it in 2018. 3 federal judges within a year vacated that decision, said, no, you don't get to do that. So essentially, what we're trying to do is hold them to account for doing the necessary paperwork. That looks like the best strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela Kraus, followed by Hallie Roberts.
Good evening. We're all familiar faces with each other. My shirt still says the same thing. So now we have a health crisis that the governor has declared an emergency for. Where are the bathrooms? Where are the washing stations? Where are the garbage cans? Where are the drinking fountains? And where are the people to keep things clean, please? Also, we don't just need permanent sheltering. We need respite care for people who are ill and have nowhere to go. I told you a brief story a few months ago about when I advocated for someone who was living on the sidewalk, her options, and was in the hospital. And every time I asked at every level of care, what about aftercare respite for her? The response I got from every professional was, can't she come home and stay with you? We have a very serious virus in our midst. We need washing stations, bathrooms, garbage cans, drinking fountains, and people to keep things clean and safe for all of us. I'm not just concerned about whether my unsheltered friend can be tested. I want to be able to be tested, and we all need to be able to be safe. One of my favorite songs this decade is, we all need to lead ourselves into the well. I love the pun. We need to be well together. Can we please honor each other equally with care? Thank you.
Thank you. Hallie Roberts, followed by Matthew Yook.
Hallie Roberts. I live west of the Yapua Butte by the river. I was the former Star Voting campaign manager for Star Voting Lane County. I had the privilege of helping coordinate the collection of 16,000 signatures for Star Voting Lane County. And most of that signature collection was done in the city limits of Eugene. So I've been around a lot of people that have had these conversations with the citizens of Eugene. And it is clear to me that the citizens of Eugene want Star Voting. If you look at the data on the county vote that was taken, more than 70% of the citizens of Eugene voted yes for Star Voting. That's clear proof that we want it. And the intricacies of our elections office and the signature invalidations that occur on a sample size of 20% of the signatures collected is frustrating to me. The process of democracy is challenging when you have to require getting volunteers to collect signatures, and then for the elections office to not even look at all of the signatures is very frustrating to a citizen trying to improve the democracy of this place. So I do wish that all of the signatures would be looked at, and I am intrigued why so many signatures are thrown out when we ask the people, is this your signature? And they say yes. That's interesting to me. Star voting is the most forefront of election science. It was developed by the two main camps that are at the forefront, ranked choice voting and the Center for Election Science came together at a conference in Eugene, and this came out of that. It solves all the problems of our modern system, and we could implement it here.
Thank you. Matthew Yook, followed by Mark Frohnmeyer.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Matthew Yook. I come before you tonight. I've spoken a few times, not directly with y'all near enough, I fear, just because I'm running for mayor of Eugene. I think there's some good ideas I can hopefully bring to the table. One quick aside, though, with all this talk about short-term rentals and secondary homes and parents that might need housing. I'm a parent. I have a kid. I have a shithole apartment, sorry, y'all. But I tried to find another housing situation for us, but they're unapproachable just because of the lack of rentals that we have. And so it's a little concerning for folks to say, oh, well, this is kind of impacting our retirement plan when there's people on the streets right now. And so I think we really need to enact a tax to make sure that short-term rentals can't drive out long-term renters. And so I just found out, I guess, about this ad hoc committee. I did not quite know that this was such a concern for folks until tonight, except that it's only from folks that can afford to be here, folks that have secondary homes, opposed to renters struggling and trying to feed their kids or do homework, you know? Which is just something that was a little concerning, I mean. But aside from that, I originally got excited trying to look for housing issues, why the Gordon Lofts got the Mupti. There was a lot of confusion trying to surf the internet and the city website page, which I'm pretty internet savvy, y'all. I can type pretty well, you know? And so that being so troublesome for me gave me concern about how troublesome is it for other folks that can't navigate this stuff as easily as I do, right? I had a typing class in 3rd grade, y'all. And so, one of my main things, I want transparency and access for openness as my mayoral campaign. Uke for Mayor is currently my Facebook page. I was hoping to get websites, but they're expensive on top of filing fees and all that stuff. Thank you all. Please check out Uke for Mayor ideas.
Thank you. Mark Frohnmeyer, followed by Catherine Dunn.
Good evening. Thank you all for affording this opportunity to talk. I'm Mark Frohnmeyer. I live in Ward 7. I am the founder of the Equal Vote Coalition and one of the chief petitioners of Star Voting for Eugene. I could talk to you till I'm blue in the face about all the reasons why I think star voting is super important. The reason I've gotten engaged in voting reform is because I believe we have a crisis in democracy, that our governments, particularly at the federal level, are not responsive to the will of the people and are not capable of handling the crises and the challenges of the 21st century. And star voting is designed from the root to actually represent what the voters want, to be a very clear reflection of the summation of all of the will of all the voters into the most representative candidate in each election. And I'd be happy to go over in great detail the reasons why that is and how it compares to every other potential reform out there. But what I really want to talk about tonight is just that in order to get a measure on the ballot for Eugene, you need, in this last cycle, we needed 8,091 signatures from valid Eugene voters. We collected more than 10,000 signatures from Eugenians. And we fell, according to calculations, 22 short, or 22 or 23. And again, of those were short because the signatures didn't match in a totally subjective read of the signature versus the signature in the voter file. We went back and contacted, and again, Mark, Osterloh went back and contacted 31 of those, of the 60 signatures that were rejected simply because they didn't match. And there were a whole lot of signatures that didn't match because they were out of the city limits or were in unincorporated areas. But these are actual voters whose signatures did not match subjectively. 31 signed notarized affidavits saying that they had signed the petition. That validation process is to make sure there's no fraud, not to disenfranchise voters. So please push it to the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Dunn, followed by Will Phillips.
Catherine Dunn, Ward 5. I'm with the Eugene Short-Term Rental Association. I want to start with property rights we have as Americans and Eugene residents. The right to own property also includes all legitimate uses of that property, and those uses actually give the property value. And when a government eliminates an owner's use, it takes away value, which could be considered a regulatory taking, which the owner should be compensated for. The right of a use ends when it encroaches on others' property rights. And the burden is on those who complain to show how an owner's use takes something away that they own free and clear. No one has shown that short-term rentals take away anything from anyone else that they own free and clear. The biggest complaint of short-term rentals is that they affect housing. According to the Sisson-Kovash report, the number of short-term rentals that could be long-term rentals is only about 0.4%. You guys have that report. And those rentals, if they were converted to long-term housing, would not be affordable housing because these are updated, pristine properties. They would not rent for less than $650 a month, most of them. So the other thing is, the other big complaint is about neighborhood livability. I don't know my neighbor. There's vacant houses in the neighborhood. There's increased parking. There's parties, or could be parties, or maybe people in the university area have experienced parties that occurred. These complaints aren't exclusive to short-term rentals or neighborhoods with short-term rentals. In fact, they're not short-term rental issues at all. It's simply life. If there were no short-term rentals in Eugene, would we still have neighbors we don't know? Yep. Would we still have parking issue? Yes, we would. Vacant houses? Yep. Parties? Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Will Phillips, followed by Tommy Soybean Hira.
Good evening. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk. I just have a couple of quick points about the short-term rentals. The first one, I just attended the second ad hoc committee meeting, and I was actually really surprised at how little factual information there was. It just seemed like people who already had, their prejudged ideas about what it is, and I was really hoping to hear some factual things. I know that there are some. I know it's also difficult to find, but that's important that we do this on a fact-based system. The main regulation that I am concerned about, my son and I'm helping my son buy a house, and because housing is expensive, we're trying to use some short-term rentals to help with a mortgage on it. The regulation that hit me the most was the 90-day regulation. We got 3 months, and if you can only rent for 3 months, most people are going to do it June, July, August, September, maybe somewhere in there. But there is a need for short-term rentals all year long. People come. We have people come who are moving here, who grandparents visiting the kid. There's a million reasons why people need a short-term, for anywhere from a few days to a few weeks. But people need short-term rentals. And if it's only offered in summertime, it's going to put most people out of business. We're going to end up with hobby hosts who are doing it once in a while. And if you can imagine taking your house and just having someone move in, it's like, what do you do with all your personal stuff? Are they going to be in your house, sleeping in your bed, and looking through your drawers? I mean, this is something that you really have to plan for. It isn't something you can just spontaneously say, hey, I think I'll rent out my house. It takes professionalism to do this properly. And I've been really impressed getting to know some of the other short-term rental hosts, how professional they really are about it, keeping things immaculately clean. Much more so than hotels are probably able to do because it's a smaller unit. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Tommy Soybean Hira, followed by Linda Sisson.
Hello, welcome to my feature-length film. I am Soybean, the crazy bearded alter ego of the mayoral candidate Thomas Hura. I wish that there were still 3 minutes because I'm trying to speak about 3 particular issues. One is patriotic unity here in Eugene. Another one is the power of live music in a community gathering, and the third is this stronger democracy we could have with star voting. I believe very strongly in star voting because it allows us to vote with our conscience and not with making a political calculation about who we want to be our leader. So I'm going to try to combine all those things here. I also want to say that the Trump Justice Department created an office to denaturalize immigrants, and that's very disgusting and perturbing to me because I am a naturalized U.S. citizen. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright star voting through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star voting banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you.
Very close.
Linda Sisson, followed by Jared Waybright.
I'm Linda Sisson, Ward 2. And continuing on from Tim's section, the second speaker at the second ad hoc committee facilitator recorded items on bucket sheets and ended up being a note taker while staff ran the meeting. It is very concerning that no video exists for the 2 meetings. We respectfully request that subsequent meetings are recorded and made public, similar to the Housing Tools and Strategies Ad Hoc Committee. Without an accurate record of the meeting, no one is able to review it or determine bias. For more data on community perceptions, the city designed a survey that was posted on SurveyMonkey for most of February. The results were quite resoundingly supportive of STRs operating in Eugene, but were hardly acknowledged by staff at the second meeting. Instead, the conversation shifted to the need for a 4th meeting, and then the committee members continued to hash out concerns that had been raised previously. It's also apparent from the 2 meetings that there is no clear understanding of the committee's role. Some seem to think they will be drafting an ordinance for you to pass, some that the committee will be recommending solutions, and some that the committee is raising issues for you to fully understand before attempting to create an ordinance yourselves. Staff has not clarified this fully for the group. Again, there is no collaborative process leading to consensus and no clear goals. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but I'm concerned that a process has been created in which you will not have the outcome you have asked for, and the community will be further divided on the issue. All the while, our community does need to take important steps around housing policies that will more effectively create the housing units we so desperately need. For example, the ADU issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our final speaker, Jared Waybright.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be last, I guess. My name is Jared Waybright. I am a resident of Ward 1, but I'm here tonight as the director of the Mackenzie Watershed Council, and I want to come before you tonight to thank the city for its long-time support and participation in the Mackenzie Watershed Council. Mackenzie Watershed Council has been around for about 25 years. We're a group of 28 official partners, all the way from local residents to city governments, public agencies, utilities, other conservation-minded groups like the Mackenzie River Trust, and industries like Weyerhaeuser, International Paper, and Wildish. And what this group does is works together on collaborative and voluntary solutions to really complex watershed threats to water quality, habitat loss for endangered species. And what we do is we work with private landowners and public agencies on solutions that bring people together to protect water quality and to create habitat for, enhance habitat for threatened and endangered species. Huge focus on fish, obviously, with the Mackenzie River. And so what I want to do is once again thank the city for its longtime participation and support, drop off some reports that highlight some of our programs and collaborative work, and thank Councilor Sempo for her longtime participation in the council. So thank you very much, and thank you for your service. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. And thank all of you for taking the time to stay with us tonight and share your thoughts. I have Councilor Semple, Councilor Syret, Councilor Zelenka. Anybody else? Okay, take it away, Councilor Semple.
Well, going backwards, the Mackenzie Watershed Council, it's my 4th year, and they do a lot of good work, and it's a really good example of a lot of disparate personalities, places you come from, work you do, working together. And it's not for everybody, maybe, but since I have a natural resources background, it's actually pretty interesting to see the manipulations they do to the rivers. And this is our drinking water, so they're doing a great job, and I'm glad we support them. The website, which I also find very confusing and difficult to actually get to what I want to use, is being redesigned. There's a survey online, not for terribly long, so I encourage you to go online and tell us what you want. Lori Haber's report on persecution of the unhoused. Campaigning and counseling and having a life is really taking all of my minutes, but I have read the whole thing, and I will be bringing a work session poll, not to discuss the entire thing, it's huge, but I will take the 9 recommendations and the ones, if not all, that I think are the most workable and effective, I will bring for a work session poll. I have a poll in right now asking us to add housing status to protected classes, and I'm hoping my colleagues will vote for that. The woman who wanted to actually have conversations with council about STRs has already left. We can't have more than 4 of us at once talking to you, or we have a quorum and it has to be a public meeting. However, you may always approach any of us, and I am very responsive. If you would like to have one or a few of us listen to you, please reach out. And thank you for coming. And thank you for getting it into the 2 minutes, because we've been here an hour and a half for this meeting, and when it's 2 minutes, I can actually listen to all of it. So, I did anyway, of course, but I like this. So thank you for participating.
Councilor Syret.
Thank you, and I may need a second round, depending on how long I take to say this. So I am concerned about the reports about the ad hoc committee is not sounding like what I intended it to be in my motion. I believe I have the text of my motion right here. Move to direct the city manager to create an ad hoc department advisory committee to make recommendations to city staff and departments concerning the implementation of city policy regarding the regulation of short-term rentals. This committee should engage with local short-term rental hosts and owners who represent the varieties of ways in which these short-term rentals are currently configured, and provide opportunities for neighbors impacted by short-term rentals to share their perspective on the topic. The recommendations generated through this process should be analyzed by staff and brought back to council for further consideration. So the idea was that it would be comprised of hosts of various types to learn how potential regulations might impact them. It was only ancillary that it gather input from impacted neighbors. I intended it to be mostly comprised of short-term rental hosts. Our motion never mentioned that hotel industry representatives would be part of the committee. And I don't believe we intended it to have equal number of hosts and impacted neighbors either. So I'm a little perturbed. I have not been able to attend the meetings myself. I do have a meeting scheduled with the city manager pro tem tomorrow, and I will be asking her more about this topic at that time. If you have data that you think the city council should see, you can submit it to us via email or drop it off at the city's manager's office, and they will distribute it to us. I have had the opportunity to sit down with more than one short-term rental host to hear about their rentals and what they do to keep their property maintained, limit impact to neighbors, and provide a service that our hotels are not able to provide. I do see the value that these kinds of rentals provide, and I think we should be careful in how we approach regulations. I am definitely not seeking to impose regulations that would put an end to this type of activity, but rather to set up some regulations that are sensible, that help protect consumers, neighborhoods, and short-term rental hosts themselves. Someone asked if we can impose requirements on private developers to build affordable housing. No, unless they take advantage of a tax incentive program that we offer, and right now the only one we have is the multi-unit property tax exemption, which is limited to the downtown core. Otherwise, we cannot impose regulations of that kind on private developers. I do not think this should be a fight between affordable housing and folks who want to use their property in a legal way. Real quick, I also wanted to speak to the Jefferson Traffic Calming Project. Yes, this kind of project's going to get opposition from folks, most likely people who don't live along the corridor. I think people seem to forget it's a residential street. I support your efforts. It is connected to our Vision Zero goals, so hang in there, keep working. I'm also a naturalized American citizen.
Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, first, I used to serve on the Mackenzie Watershed Council. They do very important work protecting our drinking water, and hats off to them. They're an important group for our community. I also wanted to speak to the folks talking about traffic safety. I agree that speed kills. At 20 miles per hour, your chance of death being in an accident as a pedestrian is 10%. And at 30 miles an hour, it goes from 10% to 40%, and at 40 miles an hour, it goes up to 70%. So yes, speed is a contributing factor, and speed kills. That's why back in November 2015, the City Council adopted Vision Zero as our council policy, and since then we have been integrating our transportation planning and our transportation projects and making them making safety our highest priority within that planning and projects context. A good example is on 19th Avenue, the recently almost completed construction, where 19th, I drove on that street for 30 years. And they recently changed it with bump outs and elevated intersections. And I am just so incredibly surprised at how much slower people have to go on that street because of those kind of traffic calming things. So I support more traffic calming dollars, and I agree what we do right now is a pittance, and maybe we should look at that in the budget. In 2 days, on Wednesday, we vote on moving forward with lowering the citywide residential neighborhood street miles per hour limit to 20 miles per hour, and I hope that passes. And then finally, on short-term rentals, Mr. Sisson, Bruce Sisson, if you haven't seen his work that he's collected on that, it's a pretty good database about what's going on in Eugene. And I, too, look at solving the problems there on the bad actors and not penalizing the people who are doing it right. So I think there's a happy medium in there with a registration, license, and kind of accountability mechanism that can solve some of the problems we've had with short-term rentals. And, you know, we don't do regulation for all the people that do it right. We do it for the people that do it wrong. That's why we have laws against all these different bad actors on the planet, not because everybody abides by the rules, because some people don't. And what's lacking in this case, I think, is that we don't have an appropriate set of rules. But again, not trying to penalize the people that are just trying to make a living by renting out rooms.
Great. Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to say that I agree both with almost every word she said, and certainly with the emotional content of what Councilor Surratt said. I think I may have seconded that. I'm not 100% certain, but I think I did. And I absolutely 100% saw some folks complained and an ordinance was written and we didn't listen to the other side of the story. In other words, what would the great code that our staff put together, awesome, great, but what would be the impact on the owners? That was the reason for the subcommittee. What would be the impact on the owners? Have them tell you what would be the impact. And if that gets drowned out or soft-soaped or melted down by those whose complaints are overriding that information, or those certainly in the hotel industry that has pretty much nothing to do with that, in my opinion. That would be really disappointing to me, too. What I wanted to hear was, okay, what are the potential harms in every one of the things that are listed in that code? What are the unintended consequences of enacting something that a few people thought we needed? If we end up with something considerably less than that, I'm going to be really, really disappointed. For those that spoke, there was a high degree of assumption that council makes decisions based on data and facts and logic, and I would urge caution in such assumptions. Thank you.
Anybody else with a comment? All right, thank you all very much for your comments, and thank council for your responses. It's informative and helpful in taking the next steps forward. So thank you for that. All right, we now have, that closes the public forum part of this. We are now moving on to a public hearing. Do I need to gavel out and gavel in? Public hearing? No.
Still
Still part of the city council. Thank you. There you go. So for the public hearing, an ordinance extending the term of ordinance number 20170, granting to Northwest Natural Gas Company, a corporation, a 20-year non-exclusive right and franchise to lay, maintain, and operate facilities in the public way within the city of Eugene, Oregon, and providing for the payment of compensation to the city. Manager, do you need to introduce this?
Yeah, I think just to clarify, you might recall in February we had a work session, or an executive session actually, to update you on the negotiations. With the intent and earlier direction was that we have a new franchise agreement in place by April, I believe. And during that, we just kind of updated you on where we were at in the negotiations, and let you know it was going to be clear we needed an extension to finish it. So this is really just a public hearing on the extension of the term, not actually the components that are in the franchise agreement. It's just the length of time extension.
Great. Thank you. So we have 5 people signed to testify. First up is Jim New, followed by Patricia Hine.
Mayor, Council, my name is Jim New. I live in Ward 7. I was reviewing my notes from July 2016 when I sat on the mayor's first ad hoc work group on the CRO almost 4 years ago. Our discussions were about effective means of better communication about the CRO and the climate action plan to the community, developing a dashboard for the public's monitoring progress, engaging the community at large to achieve community targets for emission reductions, both sector-based and consumption-based. Also, a plan was discussed to engage large lever shareholders who would have significant oversight, impact on fossil fuel use and greenhouse gas emission reductions, and their ability to alter systems that will enable the community to adapt and prepare for climate change 4 years ago. Community outreach about the cap has been more than inadequate. The Sustainability Commission last month just formed the dashboard subcommittee for outreach. The consumption-based reduction metrics were dropped from the plan. The airport carbon emissions were never considered in the plan. And the large lever shareholders, for most part, have been less than instrumental to committing to the city's request to individually reduce carbon emissions. 7.6% per year reduction starting in 2016 was the goal, so now we are at 30.4% and counting if we start today. The Northwest Gas franchise agreement has given you the opportunity today to be the first large lever shareholder to alter systems to reduce community carbon emissions. This can be done by a stepped approach to phasing out the use of gas within the city. First, Northwest Gas proposed goal of 25% renewable gas in their system by 2050 is woefully inadequate. That means they will be delivering 75% destructive fossil fuel methane gas 30 years from now. This target will keep the city from achieving their carbon reductions goal by 2050. Northwest Gas must be phased out of the use completely in 20 years starting today. Northwest Gas must be held to a compliance standard where 80% of renewable gas be part of their system by 2030. Failure to meet the compliance of 8% RNG year per year raises their franchise agreement fees by 20% and restricts use. Second, the prohibit new gas connections and new gas infrastructure from being installed in the city right-of-ways. Third, prohibit incentives from Northwest Gas to consumers for new gas appliances. Fourth, require existing gas appliances when needing replacement be replaced with electric appliances. Fifth, establish a 2-year franchise agreement that is reviewed every 2 years to ensure RNG compliance and adjustments. And last, the city formulates a quarterly flyer that accompanies the Northwest Gas bill that explains the reasoning for phasing out of gas appliances, switching to electric appliances, prohibiting new gas infrastructure, and educating the consumer about the consequences of using fossil fuel products. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Hine, followed by Linda Perrine.
Wow. Jim was on that committee, and I appreciate his very detailed notes. My name is Patty Hine. Good evening, councilors and mayor. It's nice to see you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to weigh in on the proposed ordinance to extend the time for negotiation of the city's franchise with Northwest Natural Gas. I know that the greenhouse gas inventory identified significant emissions from natural gas. You know that too, about 28% of our community emissions, of which about 2/3 is commercial, industrial, and 1/3 is residential. My question is, how can we reach our climate recovery ordinance targets if we do not address the low-hanging fruit of our significant fossil gas emissions? The extension of the franchise agreement negotiation timeframe must result in robust actions to reduce natural gas emissions, the kind that 350 Eugene and others have offered. Not half measures or taking any easy way out like counting on offsets. Offsets do not reduce climate warming pollution. Stopping using fossil fuel gas especially does. Don't count on state legislation either. Scientists tell us we have to be totally off fossil fuels by 2050. We have to be by half by 2030. We're running out of time. Cities are leading on climate action. Cities are phasing out natural gas. We need you to take this opportunity with the Northwest Natural Gas Franchise Agreement negotiations to help us phase off fossil fuels sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Perrine, followed by Tiffany Edwards.
Good evening. I'm Linda Perrine from Southeast Eugene. Here we are again, another extension of the Northwest Natural Franchise Agreement without meaningful steps to reduce 28% of Eugene's carbon footprint. We hear that City Council is recommending carbon offsets, which do not reduce emissions, and renewable natural gas that can only replace 5 to 18% of gas use as the preferred actions for this next agreement. This would be the least productive options on your list of 12 strategies that city staff has offered you. 350 Eugene has advocated the same message these past 2 years over and over to 2 city managers, city staff, meetings with individual council members, speaking at this podium at every opportunity, focus groups, ad hoc meetings, and prep meetings, and emails. Our message continues to be, no new fossil fuel infrastructure or appliances using natural gas in Eugene. This means no new construction, new underground lines, no customer incentives for gas. Fuel switching, transitioning from residential and business natural gas to electricity over the next 10 years. We're not fans of offsets due to there being no regulation on their implementation. However, if offsets are to be used, the funds they produce should be managed by the City of Eugene, not Northwest Natural. Meeting Eugene's obligations for 50% emissions reduction by 2030 in the CRO, and anything less is ignoring your responsibility as elected leaders of Eugene to act on climate change. Your lack of action speaks louder than your words. We hope that the next 6-month extension is going to produce real results whether it be in the franchise agreement or a separate agreement. There are ways to get this done. Other cities are doing this. We want to see Eugene get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Tiffany Edwards, followed by Linda Heil.
Mayor Vinnis and members of council, I'm Tiffany Edwards of Ward 5, and I'm here on behalf of the Eugene Chamber of Commerce. As most of you know, the Chamber does not always weigh in on your decisions. However, we felt compelled to lend our voice to supporting the extension of the franchise agreement with Northwest Natural. We understand that the franchise negotiations are in process, and the involved parties have been coming to the table and in good faith and continue to do so. Our local government affairs council has had several extremely informative presentations illuminating the various implications reflected by potential regulatory changes that are under consideration by this council. The Eugene Chamber takes pride in gathering all of the facts and understanding the impacts prior to taking positions on policy decisions. LGAC voted unanimously to support the franchise agreement extension so that all of the facts and information could be clearly presented and considered. And so long as the parties involved are continuing to do so with the best of intentions, we fully support taking the additional time to ensure the best decisions are made. We're seeing how dysfunctional our federal and state policy bodies have become because they haven't been able to effectively turn a difference of opinion into a compromise rather than a shutdown. I'd like to think Eugene can do better, and I'd ask that take the time needed to do the right thing and support the franchise extension agreement as you work towards the best outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker, Linda Heil.
Hello, everyone. 350 Eugene, my name, do I have to give my name, et cetera? Linda Heil, and I'm in Ward 2. We appreciate the efforts to build some carbon reductions into this franchise agreement. Councilors know the current state of negotiations, but because executive sessions are not public, we, the public, cannot make a judgment as to the need for the extension. So we will keep emphasizing the fundamentals. Deep carbon reductions are needed from gas use. Not 30% by 2035 as offered in Northwest Natural's pathways. More like 60 to 75% reduction is needed to meet our 2030 goals, the same steep reduction level that is being planned for the transportation sector. Council has discussed 5 methods for reducing gas emissions: limiting or prohibiting new customers, transitioning current customers to electricity, requiring efficiency and conservation measures, requiring offsets paid by the customers or by Northwest Natural Company itself, and adding biogas to the pipeline. We hear that 3 of these are part of the current negotiations: efficiency, which we agree is crucial, biogas, and offsets. Northwest Natural admits in its most recent IRP that biogas is not yet technically or financially feasible at scale. Developing biogas to add as a small fraction of the pipeline supply will have only a small impact. Offsets may be an acceptable temporary measure, but cannot be regarded as a permanent solution. The most impactful methods are limiting new customers and transitioning current customers to electricity. Nothing requires that all these regulations must be done via the franchise agreement. Please direct the city attorney to clearly lay out at the April work session other legal ways that council could prohibit Northwest Natural from peddling its obscene $2,550 incentive for switching from clean electric to carbon blasting gas, to limit and prohibit gas in new construction and new service hookups in existing buildings, and to require that gas appliances be replaced by electric ones over the next 10 years. Councilors, this is a public hearing. We ask to hear from each of you publicly tonight. Who supports the direct methods that are necessary to give the sufficient gas reductions in gas emissions? Those direct methods are in prohibiting incentives, limiting gas for new construction and other new customers, and requiring that old gas appliances be replaced with electric ones over the next 10 years. Thank you, and we look forward to your responses tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, and that ends the public comment. Do we have councilors who wish to comment on what you've heard? Councilor Zelenka.
I just wanted to say a word about offsets. So offsets, if done correctly and regulated correctly, are a very effective use of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. While they shouldn't make up the majority, they could be an important component of it. Offsets are nothing more than signing a contract with a third party to reduce their use. If you don't believe they work, then you don't believe that EWEB and the whole Northwest did several thousand megawatts of conservation. When EWEB went and got conservation, they basically did an offset. They went to me and you and everybody else in the community, industrial customers, commercial customers, and said, if you reduce your use, we will pay you. They were so effective in doing that conservation offset, that now conservation is the second largest resource in the Pacific Northwest behind hydro. So done correctly, they can be a very effective tool.
There's the expert. Anybody else with a comment? Okay, thank you very much. Very informative, and we appreciate you coming out, and we are adjourned.